I need the scoop.
When family pressure collides with personal beliefs, who gets the final say over a child's spiritual future? We're diving into a Reddit story that sparked passionate debate about religion, boundaries, and the tug of war between respecting tradition and standing firm in your own convictions. This is one of those stories that will make you question where family loyalty ends and personal integrity begins.
My husband is 32 and I'm 30 years old, and we've been married for 2 years. 9 months ago, we welcomed our first son, we'll call him Jay, into our lives. I was raised Christian, but have since stepped away from organized religion. My husband was raised Catholic, but he's very open-minded. We've always been respectful of each other's beliefs, and we had a very non-traditional outdoor wedding with a mutual friend officiating. While I was pregnant, we discussed the idea of baptism, and I firmly expressed that I have no desire to have my child dedicated to any religion. It opened a really good discussion between us, and while my husband was supportive, he knew this would be a sore spot with his mother, who is in her 50s and a very devout Catholic. Since we had a million other things to worry about as new parents, we basically left it at, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Well, that bridge is here now, and both of our families are getting frustrated. My mother-in-law is continually asking us when we'll be taking Jay in, and she has even had her priest call us to set up a date. I was so shocked that I just told him we would get back to him. She is blatantly setting this up behind my back. I was so upset that I called my mother for help. I explained to her that this is not something I want for Jay. It is not for me to decide his spiritual journey, and I'm not going to dedicate him to a religion that I don't plan to raise him in. That would make me a liar, not just to the family, but to the entire church. After a bit of an argument, she told me to just do it to make my mother-in-law happy, saying, "It's only an hour of your life. Can't you just suck it up?" I was so upset I hung up on her. I couldn't believe she would just dismiss my beliefs like that. One commenter suggested I talk directly to the priest about this, pointing out that he likely wouldn't baptize my son if I told him I had no desire to raise Jay Catholic, and that the priest, my husband, and I could then tackle my mother-in-law together. That actually gave me a new perspective. I had just assumed the priest would try to talk me into it too, but it's a really good point. As for whether my mother-in-law might go behind our backs entirely, as upset as she might be, I know she wouldn't do that. We typically have a very honest and open line of communication, and that would be a huge breach of trust that neither my husband nor I would ever forgive. She's well aware of that. I'm mainly writing this for my own sanity. Am I overreacting? I feel like my family isn't listening to my wishes. While I want to be respectful of their beliefs, this is something I feel very strongly about. As his mother, don't I have the final say in this? I'm just leaving work now, and I'm actually meeting up with my mother-in-law's priest in about an hour. I'll try to share an update on how it goes.
Reddit largely stood behind the original poster, with many sharing their own experiences of families overstepping boundaries around religion and parenting. Armed with a surprising suggestion from the comments, she decided to take an unconventional step that most people in her position would never consider. Just 2 days later, a candid conversation with the last person she expected would shift the entire dynamic in a way no one saw coming.
A lot has happened between yesterday afternoon and this morning, so let me catch you up. My husband and I met with my mother-in-law's priest yesterday afternoon, and I explained my concerns and reservations about having our son baptized Catholic. Surprisingly, he was very understanding about it. He agreed that asking me to lie in front of our family and friends was as much against his moral code as it is mine. The only reason he called in the first place was because he was under the assumption that we were interested in having our son dedicated in that church, similar to what my husband's cousin did when she had her son a few months before me. My mother-in-law had simply mentioned it to him, and I jumped the gun on thinking she was planning something behind my back. We talked about doing some other kind of blessing or dedication ceremony, and I think that's the route we're going to take. I called my mother-in-law when we got home, and we had a very lengthy discussion about religion and what it means to both of us. We were both calm, composed, and really tried to see things from each other's perspective. She made the argument that if something were to happen to Jay, how would we know if we would all be together in the afterlife? I made the point that I feel any type of God who would send innocent children away is not someone who should be worshipped. She told me I made a good point, but that I still couldn't change her beliefs. And that's fine, I'm not asking her to. In the end, we settled on a compromise. Jay's first birthday is in a couple of months, so before the party, we will have a small blessing ceremony at the church, just immediate family and his godparents. She wouldn't budge on the need to name godparents for him, but I should clarify what that actually means in our case. She was mostly worried that we didn't have anyone lined up to legally take care of our son if anything happened to my husband and me. When I told her we did, and that it was already in our wills, she was much more calm about the whole thing. In our son's case, his godparents would legally become his guardians. The fact that they'll be called his godparents is partly just to make her happy and lessen any confusion. There will be no commitment on any of us to raise him in the church. The priest was more than happy to do that for us, and my mother-in-law was content with the decision. We also told her that if Jay decides to be baptized in the future, she is more than welcome to throw a party for him. So, in the end, it's all going to work out. Thank you everyone for your stories and advice.
Sometimes the most meaningful resolutions come not from winning an argument, but from truly listening to one another. Drop your thoughts on navigating family and belief differences in the comments below, and subscribe so you never miss more stories about the delicate balance between tradition and personal values. Check out our other videos for more tales of family conflict, compromise, and the courage it takes to stand your ground.